Java once flourished as a center of civilization, with magnificent temples and prosperous cities dotting the landscape. But beneath the surface, royal brothers plotted against each other, their jealousy threatening the entire kingdom. An aging king watched helplessly as his sons fought over the throne, each believing they deserved to rule. What began as a family dispute soon fractured the entire empire into competing kingdoms. Priests read ominous signs in their rituals, predicting generations of bloodshed and suffering. The first battle erupted not between strangers, but between brothers who had grown up together. Ordinary farmers watched helplessly as their homes burned, caught in a war they didn't understand. Scribes carefully recorded the growing conflict, their scrolls becoming our window into this tragic era. Even marriages became political weapons, with princesses traded like chess pieces in a deadly game. Assassination attempts became commonplace, with poison and daggers replacing honest debate. Military leaders changed sides frequently, their loyalty going to the highest bidder. Massive fortifications rose across Java, dividing the island into armed camps. Religious leaders begged for peace, but their pleas fell on deaf ears as hatred deepened. The economy crumbled as trade routes were cut and farms were abandoned to the fighting. An entire generation knew nothing but war, their childhood games mimicking the violence around them. The war settled into a brutal pattern, fierce fighting in dry seasons, tense truces during monsoons. Foreign merchants grew rich selling weapons to both sides, fueling the endless conflict. The prolonged war sparked military innovations, with each side developing deadlier weapons. Prisoner camps overflowed with captives who had once been neighbors and sometimes relatives. War elephants thundered across battlefields, their massive frames trampling everything in their path. Amid the violence, artists and scholars worked secretly to preserve Javanese culture. The conflict became hereditary, with grandfathers, fathers, and sons all fighting the same enemy. Strategic marriages often backfired, with brides secretly remaining loyal to their birth families. Field medics struggled with limited supplies, using traditional herbs to treat horrific wounds. Peace negotiations repeatedly collapsed when old hatreds and suspicions resurfaced. As manpower dwindled, even children were pressed into service, their innocence sacrificed to war. The environment suffered terribly, with forests burned and rivers polluted by decades of conflict. Mass migrations occurred as civilians fled the constantly shifting front lines of the war. Economies adapted to perpetual war, with weapons manufacturing replacing peaceful industries. After decades of fighting, even the most hardened warriors showed signs of exhaustion and despair. During brief truces, soldiers sometimes discovered their enemies shared the same culture and values. Military heroes became legendary figures, their exploits celebrated in songs and stories. Neighboring kingdoms attempted mediation, but the deep-rooted conflict resisted outside intervention. The endless warfare caused technological stagnation, with all resources devoted to destruction. Military tactics evolved constantly as commanders adapted to the unique challenges of a 200-year war. The final great battle saw exhausted armies clash, with neither side having the strength for victory. A young prince from a minor royal branch emerged, seeing the folly of continued fighting. The peace treaty was signed by weary leaders who had known nothing but war their entire lives. Soldiers from both sides laid down their weapons, often embracing the enemies they'd fought for generations. Refugees returned to find their villages in ruins, facing the monumental task of rebuilding. Economic recovery began slowly, with new trade routes opening between former enemy territories. A cultural renaissance began as artists and scholars emerged from years of hiding and suppression. Population records revealed a dramatic decline, showing the true cost of 2 centuries of conflict. A new unified kingdom emerged, its constitution designed to prevent such conflicts forever. Historical records were rewritten to emphasize shared culture over past divisions. Memorials were built honoring the dead from all sides, recognizing shared suffering. Educational systems were reformed to teach new generations about the horrors of civil war. Modern archaeologists continue to uncover evidence of this epic conflict piece by piece. Genetic studies reveal how the war shaped population patterns that persist to this day. Modern Javanese culture still bears traces of both the conflict and the hard-won reconciliation. Digital preservation of ancient manuscripts continues to uncover previously unknown aspects of this epic conflict. Genetic research now connects modern families to warriors and rulers from both sides of the ancient conflict. Classical Javanese dance performances still depict scenes from the war, keeping the historical memory alive. Recent archaeological excavations have uncovered mass graves showing the horrific scale of the casualties. Analysis of ancient climate data reveals how droughts and monsoons affected the war's progression. Linguists have found that the prolonged conflict significantly influenced the development of the Javanese language. Museums across Java now display weapons and armor from the war, educating new generations. Historical reenactments at ancient sites help visitors visualize the epic battles that shaped Java. Economists have calculated the staggering long-term economic costs of 2 centuries of continuous warfare. Many traditional Javanese healing practices were developed specifically to treat war injuries. Temple architecture from this period shows clear adaptations for defense and fortification. Oral traditions in remote villages still preserve stories of individual heroism and tragedy from the war. Universities worldwide now use this conflict as a case study in prolonged civil war resolution. Advanced satellite imagery has helped identify previously unknown battlefield sites across Java. Classic Javanese literary works draw heavily from the themes and stories of this epic conflict. Anthropologists continue to study how the war fundamentally reshaped Javanese social structures. Peace monuments now stand on former battlefields, symbolizing reconciliation and hope. School programs across Java teach children about the devastating costs of division and the value of unity. International teams of scholars are collaborating to create a comprehensive chronology of the entire conflict. Today's united Java stands as a testament to the resilience of its people and their ability to learn from history. Elderly storytellers continue the vital work of passing down accurate accounts to younger generations. Military academies worldwide study the tactical innovations that emerged from this prolonged conflict. Researchers are studying the long-term psychological impacts on descendants of those who lived through the war. Vibrant cultural exchanges now occur between regions that were once mortal enemies. Historians work to correct romanticized versions of the war, emphasizing its true human costs. Traditional Javanese conflict resolution methods developed during the peace process are still used today. Genealogical research helps families understand and come to terms with their ancestors' roles in the conflict. Contemporary artists create powerful works reflecting on the eternal themes of war and peace. International peace organizations study Java's successful reconciliation as a model for modern conflicts. The ultimate lesson: from the ashes of destruction can emerge the beautiful flowers of lasting peace and understanding.